Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to The Walk. Today is Friday, January 17th, and we are up to Ezekiel chapter 32. In chapter 31, we saw that Egypt was being compared to Assyria because Assyria was destroyed, completely destroyed, to the point where it became kind of like a ghost town. And now we're into this lament over Pharaoh and Egypt. We've seen several laments up to this point. And that brings us to Ezekiel 32, verse 1. In the 12th year, in the 12th month, on the first day of the month, the word of the Lord came to me. What is that date? It is March 3rd, 585 BC. It's a few months after the report of the fall of Jerusalem had reached Ezekiel. So as a few months earlier, Ezekiel found out about the fall of Jerusalem. Verse 2, Son of man, raise a lamentation over Pharaoh, king of Egypt, and say to him, you consider yourself a lion of the nations, but you are like a dragon in the seas. You burst forth in your rivers, trouble the waters with your feet, and foul their rivers. Okay, so why is this lamentation going out over Pharaoh? In the Fire Study Bible, it says, this lamentation mocks Pharaoh, who believed he was as strong as a lion or a great sea monster. However, he would have to answer to God, as all the world leaders will have to do at the end of the history. So it's kind of interesting. You know, we saw that Egypt was being compared to Assyria, and that we had this analogy of the fir tree, which represented Assyria. Well, now we're going to have this analogy of Pharaoh because he declared that he was as strong as a lion or a sea monster. And this whole chapter is going to kind of be poking fun at him for that. In the Cultural Study Bible, there was a few notes, and it said, like a lion, it said, the Egyptian pharaohs compared themselves with a lion. Seti, the first, attacked a fortified palace, and on the wall of the temple in Karnak, describes himself as victor who prevailed over them like a fierce lion. Ramses III describes his battle against the sea peoples in a similar vein. Comparing themselves to a monster of the seas, Cultural Study Bible had this note. The monster in this case is not located in the Nile River, but in the seas. This reference is probably to the cosmic monsters destroyed by God. In the Bible, as well as in the ancient Near East, the sea represents chaos and non-order, as do the sea monsters that live there. The obvious physical struggle between the sea and the land, as well as the fierce, seemingly unstoppable energy displayed by the savage sea, gave rise to cosmic myths in the Near East. In Psalm 104:26, Yahweh is said to play with Leviathan, and in Job 41, verses 1 to 11, God challenges Job to show his control over Leviathan as God does. The kingdoms represented by these beasts are therefore associated with the forces of chaos that bring disorder to God's world and need to be overcome. The imagery of this chapter demonstrates that Ezekiel and his audience were familiar with the mythological literature from the culture they now lived in. For Ezekiel, allusions to this imagery, sometimes blatant, other times subtle, serve as a framework for his prophetic message. The parallel between lion and monster, which could be a dragon, seems strange to us, but it is not at all unusual in Ezekiel's world. The famous Ishtar Gate in Babylon and the procession leading up to it used glazed bricks to create alternating images of lions and dragons. Additionally, in the mythological traditions of Mesopotamia, a composite creature that combined lion and dragon features was common. This is especially true of Labu in the Labu myth. From as early as the beginning of the second millennium BC, kings used lion and dragon in parallel to describe themselves, churning the water, muddying the streams. This description indicates a typical mythical scene in which the churning of the cosmic ocean disturbs the creatures, often sea monsters, who represent the forces of chaos and non-order. In the Enuma Elish creation epic, the sky god, Anu, creates the four winds that stir up the deep and its goddess, Tiamat. Here, it is the monster who churns up the sea with the threat that chaos will bring disorder to the world. So, as Pharaoh is comparing himself to this lion and this sea monster, he's basically declaring, I am the creator of this chaos. I am going to muddy these waters, and my pride is the source of that chaos. We are not to compare ourselves to the strength of God. And Pharaoh is almost doing that in declaring himself like a lion. So we have to be very careful and keep our pride in check. Today is Friday, so I'm going to remind you, no video this weekend, but I'll be back with you on Monday. Have a wonderful day. God bless, and keep walking the walk.